The stars above the pyramids held more than just light. They held a map to eternity. Ancient Egyptians did not simply gaze at the night sky. They read it as a divine scripture where gods sailed in boats. The dead became stars, and the fate of the Nile was written in celestial code. By the end of this journey, you will be able to look up and see the same sky they did, not as random points of light, but as a living, breathing world of myth and meaning. We will uncover why a pharaoh's soul aimed for the stars that never set, and what dangerous creature they believed lurked in the dark expanse. What does it feel like to find a story written across the heavens? For the Egyptians, the sky was not an empty void, but a vast, shimmering reflection of their own world. Its central feature was a brilliant, star-studded river flowing through the darkness, a perfect mirror of the Nile that sustained their civilization. They called this the winding waterway, a celestial twin to the earthly river that dictated the rhythm of their lives with its annual floods. Just as the Nile carved a fertile path through the desert, bringing life and abundance, this heavenly river was seen as a conduit of divine energy and a roadmap for the soul. This belief created a profound symmetry, a concept where the universe above was a direct, predictable duplicate of the world below. Pharaohs and commoners alike looked up and saw a familiar landscape, a promised land in the stars where the same natural laws applied, but perfected for eternity. The Milky Way was not a mystery to be solved, but a reality to be navigated. It was the ultimate reassurance that order triumphed over chaos, both on Earth and in the heavens. This mirrored cosmology answered the most fundamental questions of existence, providing a clear, visual map for the journey after death. A soul did not travel into an unknown abyss, but sailed upon a well-charted course toward its eternal home. This celestial river was their guide, their promise, and their proof that life was an unbreakable cycle. But one star shone brighter than all others, arriving with a purpose that dictated the rhythm of life itself. This was Sopdet, the goddess we know as Sirius, the dog star. Her appearance was not a quiet event, it was an announcement. Just before dawn, after a long absence, she would break above the horizon for the first time each year. This moment, called the Heliacal Rising, was the most anticipated celestial event in all of Egypt. It was the starting gun for the entire year. Her return signaled the imminent, life-giving flood of the Nile, an event so crucial it marked the first day of the Egyptian New Year. The entire civilization, from the pharaoh to the farmer, watched for her. Without Sopdet's signal, the calendar was meaningless, the planting season a guess. She was the divine timekeeper, a beacon of renewal whose light promised that the parched land would soon drink deeply from the river, and the fields would once again burst with grain. She was the promise of life itself, written in the sky. Yet Sopdet was not alone in this cosmic drama. Her eternal partner was the mighty Sa, the constellation we call Orion. To the Egyptians, he was not merely a hunter, but the great god of the dead and resurrection, a celestial figure of Osiris himself. Where Sopdet heralded the rebirth of the land, Sa represented the rebirth of the soul. He was the perfected, eternal form that the deceased pharaoh aspired to join, a powerful spirit who had conquered death. His familiar belt of 3 stars was seen as the backbone of this divine being, the very axis of his power in the afterlife. Every night, as Sa strode across the heavens, he enacted the eternal cycle of death and renewal, a constant reminder that the end of one journey was merely the beginning of another. Together, Sa and Sopdet formed the ultimate cosmic couple, a divine husband and wife whose relationship mirrored the most fundamental cycles of existence. Their story was one of separation and joyful reunion. Each year, as Sopdet vanished from the night sky, it was as if she had departed on a long journey. Her dramatic return at dawn was not just a seasonal marker, it was a celestial reunion with her beloved husband, Sa. This meeting in the heavens was believed to directly cause the Nile's flood. Their divine union, the joining of the god of resurrection and the goddess of new life, poured its fertile energy into the world below, making the river overflow its banks. The star and the constellation were more than just symbols, they were active participants in the survival of Egypt. Their love story, played out across the vast stage of the night, was the very engine of creation, death, and rebirth for an entire civilization. Yet not all stars were part of this annual drama of departure and return. High above the northern horizon, a separate group of stars moved in a constant, unwavering circle. These were the Ikimu Sek, a name that translates to the imperishable ones, while other constellations like Sa and Sopdet would rise and set, dipping below the Earth. These northern stars never vanished from sight. They were eternal, fixed in their endless circuit around the celestial pole. For the Egyptians, this was the ultimate symbol of permanence in a universe of cycles. They were the undying ones, the stars that refused to be swallowed by the underworld each night. It is no surprise, then, that these specific stars became the coveted destination for the soul of a pharaoh. His ultimate goal was not just to join the gods, but to become one of these eternal, unchanging lights. The pyramid texts, the oldest collection of religious spells known to humanity, are filled with this desire. They contain spells and incantations specifically designed to launch the king's soul directly into this company of the imperishable ones. One spell might command, "The king is a star," while another assures him, "You will not perish, you will exist for millions of years." The architecture of the pyramids themselves was a physical machine to achieve this goal. The narrow, sloping shafts built deep within the Great Pyramid were not for ventilation. They were precision-aligned telescopes of stone, pointing directly toward the heart of these circumpolar stars. As the king's body lay in the burial chamber, his soul was believed to travel up these passages, shooting out to take its permanent place in the northern sky. His immortality was guaranteed by joining the one part of the cosmos that never changed, never faded, and never died. This was the final, triumphant escape from the cycle of decay. He would become a fixed point of light, watching over Egypt for all eternity. But this celestial map was not just for the dead. It also charted the perilous voyage of the sun itself. Each evening, as the sun disappeared in the west, the Egyptians believed the god Ra began his most dangerous journey. He did not simply rest. He boarded a magnificent vessel known as the solar bark and sailed into the belly of the underworld. This was a 12-hour voyage through utter darkness, a river of night where a monstrous serpent named Apep lurked, waiting to devour him and plunge the world into eternal chaos. The entire night was a desperate battle for survival, not just for Ra, but for all of creation. His success was never guaranteed. So how did he navigate this terrifying realm? He used the stars. The constellations we see as familiar patterns were, to the Egyptians, divine beings and landmarks along this subterranean river. They were the trusted guides and protectors who lit the way, helping the solar bark avoid sandbanks and the coils of the great serpent. The circumpolar stars, the imperishable ones, were especially crucial. Because they never set, they were seen as eternal sentinels who could shine their light even into the deepest parts of the Duat, the underworld, providing a fixed reference point in the overwhelming darkness. This belief was so powerful that it was physically recreated for the pharaoh. His funeral barge, buried beside his pyramid, was not just a symbol of the Nile. It was a functional replica of Ra's solar bark, a vessel designed to carry his own soul on a similar, star-guided journey through the dangers of the afterlife. Priests would recite spells from the pyramid texts, not mere prayers, but potent incantations of protection. These words were a magical shield, intended to summon the same stellar forces that protected Ra. One spell might call upon the unwavering light of the imperishable ones, while another would command the stars of the northern sky to extend their hands to the king's bark. The goal was to ensure the deceased pharaoh could join Ra's crew, safely navigating the perils of the night to be reborn with the sun at dawn. His immortality depended on this stellar navigation, a nightly cosmic drama where the fate of every soul hung in the balance. This cosmic clockwork of protection and peril required a precise way to measure the night. The ancient Egyptians developed one of humanity's first timekeeping systems not from the sun, but from the stars themselves. They divided the sky into 36 star groups known as Decans. Each Decan was a small constellation or a single bright star that rose just before dawn, a phenomenon called its heliacal rising. For 10 days in a row, a specific Decan would be the one to appear on the eastern horizon moments before the sun washed out the sky. Then, it would hand over this duty to the next Decan in the sequence. This created a celestial conveyor belt of time, with a new star group heralding the dawn every 10 days throughout the year. But their function did not stop at marking the days. At any given hour of the night, a particular set of these Decans would be visible overhead. By observing which group was highest in the sky, an Egyptian astronomer priest could determine the time with remarkable accuracy. The night was divided into 12 equal parts, and the rising of each successive Decan marked the beginning of a new nighttime hour. This was a star clock, ticking away the dark hours with unwavering consistency. We can still see this system carved into history. Elaborate diagonal star charts were painted inside the lids of coffins, providing the deceased with a permanent timepiece for their journey through the underworld. Later, the ceilings of royal tombs and great temples like that of the goddess Hathor at Dendera became massive stone canvases for these Decan maps. They were not mere decoration, they were functional guides to eternity. A soul could look at these charts and know exactly where it was in the perilous journey of the night, navigating by the same stars that guided the sun god Ra himself. This was timekeeping woven into the very fabric of the afterlife, a promise that even in death, the orderly cycles of the cosmos would prevail. While the northern stars promised eternal peace, another constellation roared with a far more volatile power. High in the heavens stalked a great lion, a figure we recognize as the constellation Leo. To the Egyptians, this was not just a beast, but the embodiment of the lioness goddess Tefnut, a deity of such immense power she controlled the very moisture in the air. Her story is one of fiery temper and necessary return. In one pivotal myth, Tefnut becomes enraged with her father, the sun god Ra, and abandons Egypt entirely, transforming into a fierce lioness and fleeing to the distant, desolate lands of Nubia. Her departure had an immediate and devastating consequence. It drained the world of all moisture, leaving the land under a relentless, scorching sun. This was the mythic explanation for the brutal, dry heat of the Egyptian summer, a time when the Nile was at its lowest and the air crackled with dryness. The people suffered under a drought sent by a goddess's wrath, but the sky held the key to her return. As the constellation Leo began its prominent journey across the night sky, it signaled the peak of this very heat. The lion's appearance was a celestial reminder of Tefnut's absence, a time when her life-giving waters were most desperately missed. Yet this was also a season of hope, for it was through careful diplomacy and clever trickery that the gods eventually persuaded Tefnut to come home. Her joyful return to Egypt was said to bring with it the life-giving rains and the revitalizing humidity that would eventually lead back to the Nile's flood. So every year, when the lion blazed in the night, it was not just a marker of seasonal hardship, it was a promise that even the most furious divine anger could be soothed, and that the balance of the world, though tested, would always be restored. Yet even the most stable constellations held stories of cosmic violence. Look up at the 7 bright stars of the Big Dipper, and you are seeing a celestial crime scene. The Egyptians knew this formation as Mesekatu, the bull's thigh, but it was no ordinary piece of an animal. It was the severed leg of the chaotic god Set, violently torn from his body and cast into the heavens as a permanent trophy. This story begins with the greatest feud in their mythology, the epic battle between Set, the god of disorder, and his nephew Horus, the rightful sky god. During a brutal confrontation, Set, who often took the form of powerful, unidentifiable beasts, was mutilated. Horus, fighting to avenge his father Osiris, ripped the leg clean off his uncle. To ensure Set could never regain his full strength, and to serve as an eternal warning against chaos, the gods took this limb and fastened it to the northern sky. That cluster of stars is not a bear or a wagon, it is a divine relic, a piece of a god frozen in place for all time. Its position, forever circling the pole star, meant it was constantly watched and could never descend to the earth below. This was not merely a story, it was a powerful symbol of order's ultimate victory over chaos. The leg's eternal imprisonment in the sky was a guarantee that the disruptive forces Set represented were contained and controlled. The power of this celestial leg was then harnessed in one of Egypt's most crucial rituals, the stretching of the cord. Before a single stone of a temple or pyramid was laid, the king and the high priestess of Seshat, the goddess of writing and measurement, would perform this sacred ceremony. They would use an instrument called a merkit, a notched palm rib with a plumb line, to sight the stars. Their primary target for alignment was often this very constellation, Mesokatu. By sighting on the bull's thigh, they were doing more than just finding true north. They were channeling the magical power of a defeated chaos god to lay the foundations of Mot, the sacred order of the universe. They were using the imprisoned limb of disorder itself to create the most perfect, orderly structures on Earth. The pyramids, those ultimate symbols of permanence, were thus oriented by the very embodiment of contained chaos. This was a profound magical act, turning an instrument of violence into a tool for cosmic harmony. Every temple and tomb aligned this way was a testament to the belief that even the darkest forces could be captured, transformed, and made to serve the cause of eternal balance. This celestial menagerie held more than just gods and relics. It also contained the very monsters that threatened the world below. Among the constellations, the Egyptians saw the forms of two of the Nile's most dangerous inhabitants, the hippopotamus and the crocodile. These were not random animals, but the celestial embodiments of powerful and ambivalent deities, Taweret and Sobek. On land, a hippo was a creature of immense, unpredictable power, capable of capsizing a boat with a single lunge. In the stars, this force was magnified into the goddess Taweret, the Great One. She appeared as a composite being, a pregnant hippo with the legs of a lion and the back of a crocodile, a figure designed to be both terrifying and protective. She was the guardian of mothers and childbirth, using her ferocious appearance to frighten away any evil spirits that might harm a mother or her newborn. When her constellation was visible in the night sky, it was as if her protective power was radiating down to Earth, a shield woven from starlight against the unseen dangers of the dark. Similarly, the crocodile god Sobek, whose strength and ruthlessness were legendary, had his own place in the heavens. He was a god of the Nile's fertile waters, yet also a symbol of its sudden, deadly perils. To see his starry form was to be reminded of the raw, untamed power of nature that sustained you one moment and could consume you the next. But how did one live under a sky filled with such monstrous shapes? The answer was not to hide, but to invoke them. Egyptians actively called upon these constellations for protection. They wore amulets carved in the likeness of Taweret to safeguard a pregnancy. They recited spells that named the celestial hippo and crocodile, asking these fierce star gods to turn their wrath away from the speaker and toward any malevolent forces that might be lurking. In this way, the most frightening patterns in the night became the very sources of safety. The monsters in the stars were not just threats to be feared, they were protectors to be summoned, their cosmic power channeled through faith and ritual to create a bubble of order in a chaotic world. This divine order written in the stars was not left to chance. It was physically carved into the very landscape of Egypt. The grandest temples were not simply built for the gods, they were built as precise alignments to the cosmos, functioning as massive stone instruments to capture celestial power. The great temple of Amun-Ra at Karnak stands as the ultimate example. Its main axis was engineered with breathtaking precision to frame a specific astronomical event, the winter solstice sunrise. On the shortest day of the year, as the sun reached its lowest point on the horizon, its first rays would penetrate the temple's dark, inner sanctuary. They would travel down a long, colonnaded hall, through a series of towering gateways, and finally illuminate the statue of the god Amun-Ra deep within the Holy of Holies. This was not a happy coincidence, it was a deliberate, annual miracle of light and stone. For the priests and the people witnessing this event, it was the ultimate affirmation. The sun god was physically entering his house on earth, renewing his bond with the land and with the pharaoh who served as his intermediary. The temple became a machine for making divinity tangible, a conduit where cosmic cycles directly influenced earthly authority. This alignment did more than mark a date. It harnessed the sun's power at its weakest moment, symbolizing the promise of its return and the rebirth of light and warmth. The pharaoh, by overseeing this sacred architecture, demonstrated his unique role as the keeper of this cosmic balance. He was the one who could command the stones to speak the language of the heavens, proving his divine right to rule was woven into the fabric of the universe itself. Every solstice sunrise at Karnak was a ritual of renewal for the entire kingdom, a spectacle that transformed a building into a bridge between the human and the divine. Deep within the sealed heart of the oldest pyramids, the silence is broken by words of power. Carved into the very walls of the burial chambers are the pyramid texts, the oldest religious writings known to humanity. These are not simple prayers or histories. They are a detailed technical manual for achieving divinity. The central goal, repeated in hundreds of spells, is a single, breathtaking transformation. The king must become a star. One spell commands, "O king, you are this great star, the companion of Orion, who traverses the sky with Orion, who navigates the duat with Osiris." The text does not suggest this as a hopeful possibility. It states it as an imminent fact. The spells provide the king with the specific knowledge he needs to navigate the celestial bureaucracy. They give him the secret names of the ferocious gatekeepers he will meet, the precise passwords to get past the celestial whirlpools, and the exact declarations to make when he stands before the panel of gods who will judge his fitness to join the eternal ones. He is instructed to shout, "I am a star who illuminates the sky. I have come to my place among the imperishable ones." This is a magical assault on the natural order, a verbal rocket designed to propel a human soul past every obstacle into the unchanging northern sky. The entire pyramid structure becomes a launch platform, with its star shafts aimed like a cannon barrel at the constellation we call the Big Dipper. The texts leave no room for doubt. The king will not just go to the stars. He will become one, a new point of light forever circling the pole, a god forged from words of stone and spells of fire. Centuries after the pyramids were built, the stars above Egypt were still being carved in stone. High on the ceiling of the Temple of Hathor at Dendere lies a sprawling map of the night, a breathtaking fusion of two ancient worlds. This is the Dendera Zodiac, a masterpiece from the Greco-Roman period that captures a pivotal moment in history. Here, the familiar Egyptian constellations, like Sa the mighty Orion, are surrounded by the 12 figures of the Babylonian zodiac. The Lion of Leo now shares the sky with the scales of Libra and the Archer Sagittarius. This was not a replacement of one system by another, but a deliberate and brilliant synthesis. The Egyptian priests who designed this ceiling were not abandoning their traditions, they were expanding them. They saw the value in the Babylonian system's precise division of the sun's path, and they wove it into their own celestial mythology. The zodiac provided a new layer of cosmic order, a mathematical precision that complemented the deep, story-driven Egyptian sky. What does this stone tapestry reveal? It shows a civilization confident enough in its own identity to absorb outside ideas without being consumed by them. The Ram of Aries was not seen as a foreign invader, but as a new form for the god Ammon, often depicted as a ram. The Bull of Taurus could be linked to the powerful Apis bull, a living god on Earth. This was cultural syncretism at its most profound, a celestial diplomacy where gods changed costumes but kept their essential power. The Dendera Zodiac is a snapshot of a living, breathing tradition, one that adapted to preserve its core. It proves that Egyptian star knowledge was never static, but evolved right up until the final days of the pharaohs, forever seeking a more complete picture of the heavens they so revered. High above the resting place of a royal architect, the night sky was frozen in stone. The tomb of Senenmut, the powerful steward who oversaw the construction of Queen Hatshepsut's magnificent temple, holds one of the most complete celestial maps ever discovered from ancient Egypt. Its ceiling is not merely a decoration, it is a functional observatory painted for eternity, a snapshot of the heavens as they appeared over 3,500 years ago. Here, the Decans stars are meticulously arranged in tables, each one a precise time marker for the hours of the night. You can almost see a priest raising his water clock, or clepsydra, and then glancing up at this chart to verify the hour by the star that ruled that moment. But this ceiling offers more than just time. It presents a grand cosmic administration. Flanking the star charts are the figures of the planets, which the Egyptians knew not as wandering stars, but as gods in constant motion. Jupiter sailed as the god Horus who illuminates the two lands, Mars glowed red as Horus the Red, and Saturn was the bull of the sky. These planetary deities are shown in their barks, traveling their own distinct paths through the realm of the Decans. This entire composition reveals a sophisticated understanding of celestial mechanics. It shows that by the 18th dynasty, Egyptian astronomers were not just tracking single stars, but were mapping the complex dance of all the major celestial bodies against the fixed backdrop of the constellations. This was a master chart for navigating both time and divinity, created for a man who helped shape the very earth, and who was now equipped with a perfect map of the heavens for his own eternal journey. Deep within the tomb of Seti I, a sprawling diagram covers the ceiling, a labyrinth of stars and gods. This is no simple map, but a complex administrative chart for the afterlife. The night sky is divided into 24 squares, each one a separate district ruled by its own powerful deity. These are not random assignments. Every section governs a specific hour of the night, with its own unique challenges and celestial gatekeepers. A soul traveling through this starry bureaucracy could not simply wander. It had to know the rules of each district. This celestial diagram was the ultimate guidebook, providing the deceased pharaoh with the names and appearances of every god he would meet. It told him which ones were friendly and would offer him sustenance, and which ones were dangerous, armed with knives, who he must pacify with the correct magical spells. The chart was his passport and his protection, a way to navigate the cosmos not as a lost traveler, but as an informed official moving through a divine landscape he was expected to command. Imagine knowing that the third hour of the night is overseen by a serpent goddess who breathes fire, and that the key to passing her is to declare yourself the son of Ra. This knowledge transformed the perilous journey into a manageable, orderly procession. The soul did not fight the cosmos, it worked within its intricate, preordained system. This was the final and most detailed expression of the Egyptian belief in Ma'at, the concept of cosmic order. Even in the vast, seemingly chaotic expanse of the night, there was a government, a procedure, a map. For Seti, this painted ceiling was his guarantee that his journey to the stars would be one of authority and precision, not fear and confusion. This cosmic contract between earth and sky required a single human signature, that of the pharaoh himself. He was not merely a king, but the living son of Ra, the one individual whose very existence bridged the divine and mortal realms. His primary duty was to uphold Ma'at, the sacred principle of cosmic order, and he did this by performing rituals that were perfect earthly echoes of celestial events. His daily temple ceremonies were not just symbolic, they were functional necessities for the universe. When he offered incense and food to the statue of a god, he was not asking for a favor. He was providing the divine energy that fueled the sun's journey or ensured a star's timely rising. The rhythm of his life was a mirror of the heavens. At the precise moment of the winter solstice, he would stand in the temple of Karnak, acting as the conduit for the sun's reborn light. During the heliacal rising of Sirius, he led the festivals that celebrated the new year and the coming flood. Every action was a deliberate stitch in the fabric of reality, preventing the unraveling of chaos. If the pharaoh failed in his duties, the consequences were unthinkable. The stars might stray from their paths, the Nile could refuse to flood, and the eternal battle against the serpent Apep could be lost, plunging the world into darkness. His role was that of a master conductor, ensuring the celestial orchestra of gods and stars played in perfect, harmonious time, forever. Every night, the sun vanished into the body of a goddess. Her name was Nut, and her star-studded form was the sky itself, a colossal woman arched over the earth, her fingertips touching the western horizon and her toes the east. Each evening, she performed the most vital act of creation. She swallowed the aging sun god, Ra. His golden disk would disappear into her mouth, traveling through her starry body through the 12 hours of darkness. This was not a destruction, but a renewal. Within her cosmic womb, Ra was rejuvenated, his power restored. Then, at the crack of dawn, the goddess would give birth to him anew, a fresh, vibrant sun rising from between her legs to begin the day. This daily cycle of consumption and rebirth was the engine of the world, a divine promise that darkness was always followed by light. The Egyptians visualized this myth with breathtaking clarity. Inside royal tombs and on the undersides of coffin lids, you will find Nut painted in brilliant blue. Her elongated body curved protectively over the earth god, Geb, who lies beneath her. Stars dot her skin, and the solar bark can often be seen sailing directly along her spine, a tiny vessel on a celestial river. This was not abstract art, it was a functional map of the cosmos, showing the soul exactly which path the sun took each night. The entire universe was a family, with the sky as a mother and the earth as a father, locked in an eternal embrace that generated all of life. The architecture of temples reinforced this reality. The hypostyle halls, with their forest of towering columns, were designed as stone replicas of the papyrus thickets that grew along the Nile, but the vast, painted ceiling above them represented the body of Nut. To walk through such a hall was to literally pass through her starry realm, walking on the earth below while being sheltered by the sky above. This myth answered the most fundamental question a child might ask: where does the sun go at night? The answer was both intimate and majestic. It goes into its mother, to be born again with the dawn. These 5 wandering lights defied the predictable rhythm of the stars. While the Decans rose with clockwork precision and the imperishable ones circled their fixed point, these 5 celestial bodies had minds of their own. They would slow down, stop, reverse their course, and then race forward again against the backdrop of the constellations. To the Egyptians, this erratic behavior had one clear explanation: these were not stars at all, but gods in motion. Each planet was a divine being sailing its own distinct path through the watery realm of the night sky. The fiery red point we call Mars was known to them as Horus of the horizon. This name captured its dramatic, and often ominous, appearances low in the sky at dawn or dusk. As a manifestation of the great sky god Horus, its red glow was seen as a celestial manifestation of his power, and its unpredictable movements were interpreted as the god patrolling the borders between the earthly and divine realms. The brilliant, steady light of Jupiter was given a name that reflected its perceived role in maintaining cosmic stability: Horus, who limits the 2 lands. This planet was seen as a celestial guarantor of Mot, its consistent, kingly journey through the zodiac seemingly setting boundaries for the other celestial bodies, and ensuring the cosmic order remained intact. Then there was the slow, deliberate Saturn, which they named Horus, bull of the sky. Its ponderous pace, taking nearly 30 years to complete a circuit of the constellations, conveyed a sense of immense, patient strength. It was the celestial embodiment of a mighty bull, a potent symbol of pharaonic power and unyielding force moving with deliberate purpose through the heavens. The most elusive of these wanderers was Mercury, a planet that never strays far from the sun's glare. The Egyptians called it Sebigu, a name linking it to the god Seth, the chaotic force of violence and disorder. Its fleeting, difficult-to-observe nature, and its rapid, seemingly erratic movements perfectly mirrored the treacherous and unpredictable character of Seth himself. It was a celestial trickster, a flash of chaotic energy in an otherwise orderly sky. And finally, there was the dazzling Venus, the most beautiful of them all. It appeared in 2 distinct phases, as a brilliant morning star heralding the dawn, and as a brilliant evening star following the sunset. The Egyptians did not initially recognize these as the same object, but they revered the morning aspect so powerfully, they simply called it the god of the morning. This shining beacon that conquered the darkness was a herald of the sun's victory, a divine promise that light would always return. Together, this pantheon of wandering gods added a layer of dynamic, unpredictable life to the cosmos. Their movements were not random, they were the visible decisions of powerful deities, a constant celestial council whose debates and journeys were written in light for all to see. This celestial clockwork was so precise it revealed a grander, more patient rhythm governing the entire civilization. While the annual return of Sirius reliably marked the new year, the Egyptians discovered a much slower dance unfolding between their man-made calendar and the unwavering stars. Their civil calendar was a simple and elegant system of 12 months, each with 30 days, plus 5 extra days at the year's end, totaling 365 days. But they knew a true solar year is roughly 6 hours longer than that. This created a subtle, almost imperceptible drift. Each year, their calendar fell about a quarter of a day out of sync with the solar year and the celestial events that depended on it. The heliacal rising of Sirius, that sacred signal for the Nile's flood, would occur 1 day later on the civil calendar every 4 years. Over a single lifetime, this shift was barely noticeable. But over centuries, it became impossible to ignore. The marker for the most important event of the year was slowly marching through the seasons. This slow drift created a vast astronomical cycle known today as the Sothic cycle. The Egyptians observed that it took exactly 1,460 years for the civil calendar and the stellar year to realign perfectly. Imagine this, a calendar so meticulously tracked that its priests could conceptualize a cycle longer than a millennium. The completion of this great cycle was a moment of profound cosmic significance, a time when the human measure of time once again clicked into perfect harmony with the divine rhythm of the universe. This long-term understanding was not mere intellectual exercise, it was a matter of survival. By tracking the Sothic cycle, the priesthood could predict the long-term behavior of the Nile's flood with astonishing accuracy, even as its celestial signal appeared to wander through their calendar. They knew that even when Sirius seemed to rise in the wrong season, it was part of a predictable, grand pattern. This knowledge granted them unparalleled power to plan for the future, securing agricultural stability for generations and reinforcing their role as the essential interpreters of the cosmic order. The stars did not just tell them the time of day or the season, they provided a map of time itself, stretching far beyond the horizon of a single human life into the realm of eternity. A final journey required a map written in starlight. For those who could not afford a pyramid with its star-aligned shafts, the solution was painted on the inside lid of their coffin. This was not a simple decoration, but a functional, portable observatory for the soul. The entire inner surface became a snapshot of the night sky, a concentrated guide to navigating the terrifying, winding passages of the Jewett, the underworld. At the center of this celestial chart arched the sky goddess Nut, her star-studded body stretching protectively over the deceased. She was the ultimate roadmap, for it was through her body that the sun traveled each night. The soul could trace this very path, knowing that to follow the sun's course was to guarantee its own rebirth. Flanking this central figure were the two great celestial mothers, Nut and her sister Nephthys. Nephthys, whose name means mistress of the house, stood as a guardian at the head of the coffin, while Nut enveloped the body. Together, these sisters represented the protective boundaries of the cosmos itself, a divine embrace that shielded the traveler from the formless chaos lurking beyond the ordered universe. But a map needs landmarks, and this is where the Decans stars came in. Arranged in precise diagonal tables across the lid, these 36 star groups acted as a constant, visual clock. A soul lost in the timeless gloom of the Jewett could look up at this painted sky and know exactly which hour of the night it was, and therefore, which perilous region of the underworld it was traversing. Each Decans rising marked a new stage in the journey, a new challenge to face or a new divine gatekeeper to appease. This coffin lid was a complete survival kit, merging time, space, and divinity into a single tool. It gave the deceased the same confidence as a pharaoh, transforming a frightening voyage into the unknown into a guided tour of a familiar, though dangerous, celestial landscape. With this map overhead, death was not an end, but a journey with clear, star-lit instructions. Some star patterns they saw are now lost to us, their stories faded from the night. Tomb ceilings and sacred texts name constellations we simply cannot find on our modern charts, figures like the mysterious mooring post. This was not a random cluster of stars, but a crucial celestial anchor. Think of the sky as the great winding waterway, the celestial Nile. Just as a real boat needed a post to tie up to along the riverbank, the solar bark of Ra required a place to dock in the heavens. The mooring post was that divine pier, a fixed point where the sun god's vessel could safely berth during its perilous journey. Its location offered a moment of stability in the fluid chaos of the night, a place to rest and gather strength before moving on. Then there was the shepherd, another enigmatic figure watching over the celestial flock. In a world dependent on order, the shepherd's role was one of cosmic protection. He was the guardian who kept the stars in their proper places, preventing them from straying from their paths and disrupting the harmony of Mot. Perhaps he was the celestial counterpart to earthly shepherds, ensuring the heavenly cattle, a common metaphor for stars, did not wander into the territories of chaos. These lost constellations reveal a sky far more detailed and administrated than our own. They filled the gaps between the major gods with functional, working-class divinities. A post, a shepherd, these are not epic gods of resurrection but essential, humble roles that kept the universe running smoothly. They represent the belief that every single part of the cosmos, no matter how small, had a purpose and a guardian. Why did these patterns vanish from our collective memory? As Greek astronomy and later systems categorized the sky with different myths and geometries, these uniquely Egyptian concepts, so tied to the Nile and their specific cosmology, simply did not translate. Their meaning was too deeply rooted in a world that has long since passed, yet their absence asks us a profound question. When we look up at the same stars today, what essential pieces of the cosmic map are we, ourselves, no longer able to see? This celestial knowledge did not vanish with the fall of the pharaohs. It flowed outward, carried by trade and conquest, seeping into the very foundations of Western thought. The Greeks, encountering Egypt's sophisticated star clocks, were deeply impressed by the decanal system. They adopted these 36 star groups, but they transformed them, integrating them into their own emerging framework of the zodiac. The Egyptian Decans became the backbone of a new, more complex astrology, providing the structure for the system of planetary hours and astrological houses that would later captivate the Roman Empire and shape medieval Europe. The Greek name for this Egyptian star science, horai, meaning hours, is a direct echo of its original purpose, timekeeping. When a Roman astrologer cast a horoscope, dividing the sky into 12 segments, he was using a system whose roots reached back to the diagonal star charts painted inside Egyptian coffins. This was not a simple borrowing of ideas, but a profound cultural fusion. The Egyptian desire for a predictable, orderly cosmos, mapped with precise decans, provided the reliable clock face upon which the Greeks superimposed their own stories of fate and personality. The soul's journey through the stars also found new life. The Egyptian belief that the king's spirit could ascend to become one of the imperishable ones resonated through the centuries, reappearing in the mystical texts of the Hermetic tradition. These Greco-Egyptian writings, composed in Alexandria centuries after the pyramids were built, are filled with the idea of a stellar afterlife. In the Hermetic dialogues, the soul undertakes a celestial ascent, rising through the 7 spheres of the planets, shedding its mortal imperfections at each level, until it finally merges with the realm of the fixed stars. This is the pharaoh's stellar transformation, rephrased for a new age. The spells from the pyramid texts, which commanded the king to become a star, evolved into philosophical instructions for any seeker wishing to achieve gnosis, or divine knowledge, and return to the celestial source. You can hear the ancient Egyptian hope echoing in a later Hermetic prayer. We rejoice that you have made us divine by your knowledge. The stars were no longer just the destination for a divine pharaoh, but for every soul that sought enlightenment. This lineage connects the tomb of an Egyptian king to the alchemists of the Renaissance, all united by a single, powerful vision that our ultimate home is not of this earth, but written in the light of the eternal stars. The stones themselves are now beginning to speak, their silent alignments translated by the unblinking eye of orbit. Modern archaeoastronomy has gifted us tools that would seem like pure magic to the ancient priests. We are no longer limited to measuring temple doorways with simple transits and the naked eye. Satellite imagery can scan entire sacred landscapes from hundreds of miles above, revealing patterns invisible from the ground. Archaeologists use this data to identify precise cardinal orientations and long, forgotten processional avenues that target specific points on the horizon. But the real revolution lies in simulation software. Researchers can now digitally rewind the sky, accounting for the subtle wobble in Earth's axis over millennia. This allows them to reconstruct the exact night sky as it appeared over Giza in 2500 BCE, or above Karnak in 1500 BCE. With this digital time machine, they can test hypotheses with stunning accuracy. They can place a virtual observer inside the Grand Gallery of the Great Pyramid and watch as the star Thuban, the pole star of that era, glides into view through the narrow northern shaft. They can calculate the precise angle of the sun's rays on the winter solstice as they would have penetrated the Karnak temple complex 3,500 years ago, confirming it was no accident but an engineered miracle of light. These digital recreations have uncovered alignments so subtle they defy coincidence. A lesser-known temple might be found to align not with a sunrise, but with the moonset on the day a specific pharaoh ascended to the throne. A tomb's corridor might frame the heliacal rising of a star sacred to a particular god, a personal celestial marker for the noble buried within. Every confirmed alignment is another sentence decoded from a vast, architectural manuscript written in stone and starlight. This technology reveals a civilization that did not merely observe the cosmos, but wove its fundamental rhythms into the very bedrock of their world, with a precision we are only now beginning to fully comprehend. The stars above Giza have sparked countless theories, some of which shine brighter in popular culture than in historical evidence. One of the most persistent ideas suggests the three Great Pyramids are a perfect earthly map of the three stars in Orion's belt. This Orion correlation theory paints a captivating picture of ancient architects guided by celestial blueprints. Yet when we compare this stellar map to the actual archaeological footprint, the perfect alignment begins to blur. The three pyramids of Giza do not form a straight line. They are offset in a way that mirrors the stars' positions, but the fit is not precise. More critically, the theory often ignores the fourth, smaller satellite pyramid at the complex, which does not have a clear counterpart in the constellation. The Nile River is proposed as a mirror for the Milky Way, but the river's course has shifted significantly over thousands of years, making any direct correlation with the ancient sky uncertain. So where did this idea come from? The ancient Egyptians absolutely venerated Sa, the constellation of Orion. The pyramid texts are filled with spells to join him. But their focus was on a spiritual and symbolic connection, not a one-to-one architectural replica. They were building a machine for resurrection, not a scale model of the heavens. The compelling narrative of a perfect star map often overshadows a more profound truth. The pyramid's true celestial purpose is demonstrated by their undisputed, mathematically verified alignments to the cardinal directions and to the circumpolar stars, not to a single constellation. This distinction is crucial. It moves us from a modern fascination with exact mimicry to an understanding of the Egyptian worldview, where the goal was functional harmony with cosmic forces, not literal copying. The real magic lies not in a perfect star chart, but in how they channeled the power of the entire sky to guarantee eternal life. You can step outside tonight and witness the same cosmic drama that unfolded for the ancient Egyptians. The key to unlocking their sky lies with two of the most recognizable patterns in the heavens. To find the mighty Sa, look for the three brilliant stars in a neat, straight row that form Orion's belt. For the Egyptians, this was the backbone of the great god of resurrection. That entire, brilliant constellation surrounding the belt is Sa himself, forever striding across the winter sky. His faithful companion, the dazzling star Sirius, is easy to locate by following the line of the belt downward and to the left. You will find a diamond of stars, with Sirius as its brightest, most piercing point. This is Sopdet, whose rising once heralded the flood. These two celestial figures remain inseparable, just as they were millennia ago. To track down the imperishable ones, face north and find the Big Dipper. That sprawling cup and handle, which the Egyptians saw as the bull's thigh, is your anchor. Use the two stars at the front of the Dipper's cup, often called the pointers, and follow a straight line upward. They will lead your eye directly to Polaris, the North Star. While Polaris was not the pole star in ancient times, the entire group of constellations circling around it, including the Big Dipper and Cassiopeia, are the very stars that never set. These are the eternal, undying lights the pharaohs sought to join. For an immediate guide, a simple star chart app on your phone can work wonders. Hold your device up to the sky, and it will overlay the modern constellations. Then, with your new knowledge, you can translate. When you see Orion, you will know you are looking at Sa. When you spot Leo, you are seeing the celestial lioness Tefnut. This act of translation bridges an unimaginable gap of time. You are not just stargazing, you are reading a living document, a map of myth and meaning that guided an entire civilization. The same stars that directed the soul of a pharaoh now shine down on you, telling their ancient stories to anyone willing to look up and listen. The stars were never distant points of light to the Egyptians, but the very pulse of their world. Their entire civilization was built upon a foundation of celestial faith, where the rhythm of the Nile was written in the heavens, a king's immortality was secured among the imperishable ones, and the sun's rebirth each dawn was a drama played out in the body of a goddess. This was not a separate belief system, but a thread woven into the fabric of their daily existence. From the farmer who planted his crops by the rising of Sirius to the architect who aligned a temple to capture the solstice sun, every action was a conscious participation in a cosmic order. Their star lore was their religion, their science, their calendar, and their ultimate guide through life and death. It provided answers to the deepest human questions about time, purpose, and what lies beyond. The next time you find yourself beneath a clear, dark sky, look up. Let your eyes trace the familiar shape of Orion and remember the mighty Sa. Find the brilliant flash of Sirius and think of Sopdit's promise of renewal. Locate the Big Dipper, that celestial bull's thigh, and ponder the pharaohs who aimed their souls at its unwavering light. You are seeing the same sky they did, a vast, living archive of myth and meaning. The stories are still there, waiting in the starlight for anyone willing to listen.